it's time for us to get into the Word. And I want to introduce somebody that's very special to me. She's the mother of my 3 children. We actually have 4, which we'll tell you about. Anyway, that's the story that we're telling. But she's the mother of our children, and she's the grandmother of our grandchildren. And she's been a partner with me for over 30 years in ministry. She's put up with me for this June will be 45 years of marriage. Can you believe 45 years of marriage that you've put up with this guy? And she has been a tremendous, tremendous blessing to my life. And it's all because of her mom, who's here today. And I want to say thanks to Jenny because she raised a great daughter. And I couldn't have asked for a better mother-in-law. I love her dearly, dearly, dearly. You know, she's the only mom I got left, so I got to take care of her. So she's not an in-law at all. She's been a precious mom to me as well. And thank you for raising my wife and causing her to be such a great woman of God, and woman of prayer, and a woman of spark and vitality and spunk and Puerto Rican power and all that good stuff. Let's welcome Laura as she comes. Would you do that? Let me get my wire here.
Well, thank you, husband, for letting me be the one to bring in the word. It's not something that I'm used to doing, and it's been years and years and years since I took this seat, so anyway. But I want to start off with a story first, before we get into this. This is so uncomfortable. There we go.
You're right.
I got it, I think.
Sure.
Okay.
Gotta get situated.
Yes. I'm going to start with a story, and then after the story, we'll get into everything else. But I have to tell the story so you can understand what the message is about. When I was about 16 years old, I met a young man in church, and a few months later, okay. Yeah. Well, how do you put this? Thank you. Maybe I should hold out.
Maybe I should help.
I'll just
Make it easy.
Yes. Anyway, and I met this young man, and we married. And 2 months into the marriage, the pastor that married us came and said,
Wait a second, you're 16 years old.
Yes.
You got married.
Yes.
Just want to make that clear. It wasn't me.
It wasn't him. Anyway, so we, pastor pulled me aside and said, this young man is married with 2 children, and his wife is coming because I was in Puerto Rico, and his family was in New York. So anyway, when I got that news, I was really upset, and of course, my dad called, and I talked with him, and I went home. And at that point, I was about 2 months pregnant, and my mom, Jenny, she prayed, and she had a friend that she confided in, and we found a place in San Jose, California, where the Lord really laid it in my heart to place that child for adoption. So I went there and finished my pregnancy, and the Lord showed up and gave us a family that they couldn't have children, and they adopted him. And I had been praying that it would be a Christian family, not just, I just wanted the child to grow up in a Christian home. So that's the story. Had a baby boy.
You know, I was thinking, you were telling your story earlier in the service, I don't know, for some reason, I must have heard it on Joy FM or a speaker or written a book, but I was thinking of Moses' mother, you know, how she made the sacrifice out of love. It cannot be hard, or it cannot be easy for a mother to have a child that they bore, and to, you know, it's an awesome thing that abortion was not in the picture.
Right.
That a child was spared, but yet at the same time, what a challenge it is to have to, now you have this child to out of love and out of the best interest for that child. It wasn't that, no, I just don't have time for this, or I don't want this. It's the idea that I want this child to have a good home. Because that was really your heart. Even at 16 years old, you knew that it would be really, really challenging. And honestly, beyond impossible to be able to raise this child.
At that point, when while I was praying, before I did go to California, I was praying to the Lord, and He gave me Psalms 139. And in there is where I read where He knits us together. He knows us. And that child, God knew that child. And he was being born into purpose. Yeah. So.
And you chose, I think yourself, you said you chose not to see the baby, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
because being a
mom, your mom counseled you a little bit, right?
Seeing that child would make me say, well, I'm going to keep it.
Sure.
So I was.
It's the way it was with the dog.
Really?
I made the biggest mistake by bringing her to the pet shop to see this dog. I'm thinking he would get it out of her system. Okay. No. She thought she had to have the dog.
Okay.
That's a whole other story. I'm sorry. I was south. I'm sorry.
I gotta keep him down.
So here, just like, and I was thinking, again, Moses' mother, she sent the baby in the basket in the river. And where does the baby end up? In a place of royalty, in a place of not only care, but royal care. And in a sense, your baby ended up in a place of really affluence,
oh my goodness.
A wonderful home, Christian home.
So I'm going to now fast forward.
Yes.
To last year.
Mother's Day last year. This is last
today.
Mother's Day.
And today, a year from today,
a year ago back.
I was out for lunch with my mom, Jenny, and my sister and her daughters. And anyway, and we're eating lunch, and my sister leaned down and she goes, Laura, I think I found your baby that you adopted out. And I was like, what? And so, anyway, when she said that, I go, well, do you have a picture? Do you have anything? And when she showed me that picture, I knew in my heart immediately that was my son. And anyway, so she said, I found him through 23andMe. And she goes, and I'm going to buy that for you. So she got me the kit, and I sent it in, and it took a month. Every day I was counting and anticipating in the mail.
Let me just explain. Now, when you were 16, this was, I'm not trying to get what your age is, but that was 1972 when the baby was born. So now we're looking at last Mother's Day. This child of hers that is now, well, I'm talking about his age, not yours. They can figure them out. But he's almost 50 years old. So it's been...
He was 50 years old when I found him.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Yes. And I, anyway, so when I got the test back, and I got the email, actually. It didn't even come in the mail. And it was on June 4th. We're leaving church. I'm in the car with my mom again. And I lost it. I could not believe that I found him. And he found me.
I think one of the things that really impressed me when they first started with, I believe, communicating through the app, right? The 33 or 23andMe or whatever that is, an app. And one of the things that he said when they discovered they found each other is, I can't believe I found you.
Right.
Or I never thought I would find you. And I thought, man, that's so scriptural. You know, when you look at Psalms 139:1, it says, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and known me." And we were going to do a song today, but we just didn't get it together in time to really get it rehearsed well enough. But the song was "You Will Be Found," and God has a way of finding us.
Yes.
He has a way. I mentioned this earlier. He's been there through all the things that we've been through even the things that we thought that he wasn't there in. He was there in it. And when we acknowledge his presence and we recognize that he loves us, it makes all the difference in all the world. And for this man to have found that he has a mother that found him, not only did she find him, but he found her, and it did something in their lives.
One of the things I really want to bring to light is that, God created us. He did not speak us into existence. He created us from dust. He got down on his knees and he formed man to his image. That tells me he loves us. He cares for us, and that's, as a person, that's what I'm trying to convey, that God knows you. He formed you. He created you. He loves you.
That's right.
Anyway.
Genesis 1:26 says, and then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. In other words, in the whole creation story makes us aware that we are not truly complete until we come into connection with the one who created us.
Right.
When we do what we did this morning, when we worship, what do we do? We're coming into that connection corporately with the one that loves us the most. When we have our prayer time, when we have our time of worship at home alone, or whatever your alone time with God looks like, you are connecting with your creator, the lover of your soul. And in that connection, there then develops purpose and hope and vitality and joy and all the things that make life worth living. Why are there so many people that are searching and longing and trying to find an answer through whatever means they're trying to find an answer, and they're trying to find that connection to their creator? It really is such an important aspect of our lives to really know the Father, and that the Father knows us, and that we recognize that we are loved by him.
Right. And one of the things that, as him and I were conversing on the phone back and forth, found out that all those years, he was 50 years old, and all those years he struggled with identity. Does that sound like us? Wanting to know our identity, wanting to know where we belong, and so that brings me to our identity is discovered by knowing God, and that we become of him, and who we are. It's like who he is, and that brings in the identity of our creator, and that we belong to him and we are like him. And so when he found out that, I don't know, keep putting up pictures.
Yeah, I think we have a picture of when they were, he decided he wanted to come and meet his mother. So finding out in June, he came in July.
No. Yes, in July.
Yeah, and he couldn't wait. He had to come and visit Laura. And his name is Steve. And
we don't look alike, right? Anyway, so you will find me. And Romans 8:15 says, for you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father.
It was so interesting as I met with Steve. He really, he's not my biological son, but he is my son. And he really responded to me as a father. And it's interesting because I'm really too young to be his dad. I just want to make that very clear. Really clear.
I'm going to have to hurt him in front of all of you.
But he was so intrigued. At that time we were at Connect. He wanted to see the church. He wanted to see my office. He wanted to see the books. He wanted to see the platform. He was so, he was raised in a Christian home, but you could tell that there was a hunger there for spiritual things that he was really looking for. In his
20s, he did go to a church, and he accepted Jesus, and really the Lord did a work in him, and for a while he was just really plunged into the church and all that. But this happens to us when he went back home and he could not find the connect. He disconnected. And by finding me, it's been a channel to connect them back in. So it is so important to find a place that you connect in, because that is what's going to help you grow. Yes, we do our devotions at home, we read and all that, and be fed by different things and all, but where you connect is here in the body, and we belong to a body, and there's connection there, and that's what brings in strength for you to continue on and not fall back.
Yeah. So he came to visit. We had a time together. You connected with him. We had the pictures. We met him. We got to know him. You were inseparable for an entire weekend.
Yes.
Steve then went back down. So how has life been, since then? How often do you communicate, and what's the connection been
Well,
like?
we speak at least once a week. We text each other and all that. And but I want to say something also. I have 3 beautiful children that God has blessed me with, that grew up in our home and were around us and all. And that is Kenneth, Stormy, and Matthew. Matthew is the one that plays the drums here. And they have been a blessing in my life. And having them just brought the mother and me in a different level. And I am so thankful for all 3 of my children. And then the joy of bringing the 4th child into our life, even though he was a man, to me as a child. Anyway, us moms, they never grow up in our heart. They always will be our kid.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got anything else?
So let's just bring it to fast forward. Now it's been over a year. Now and then I think someone has. I'll just say that someone has blessed us with a upcoming trip that we'll be going out to California. And why don't you tell us a little bit about?
Well, on Easter, I was at my cousin's home, and she and my sister have decided to send me to California so I can meet his family. He called me last night, actually late last night, and he goes, "I can't wait for you to come." And then he goes, "How many of you are coming?" Because his father, the family that adopted him, are planning a major family gathering for me to meet them and for them to meet me. And I'm just like beside myself here, and how God has brought all this around. That is God. That is God that does that. And God brings us around our family. All of you are here together with us because we're a family.
That's right.
Amen?
That's right.
So
And we really wanted to have more of a family talk today, a family gathering, because that's, we want to build, and I believe we're all in this together, we all want to build Living Stones as a family, where people come and they feel loved and they feel accepted and they feel like they're valued. That's what that's what Steve was looking for. It's almost a little bit comical because you can see Steve, he's definitely has that Puerto Rican coloring. And he was adopted into a family that was lighter than me, and so
he could not relate. He could not relate.
It was like the family pictures of like, okay, what's the odd man out there, And it was it's just a little bit of a comical thing. So even in the outward appearance, there was a realization that okay, something doesn't connect here. There's more to this story. So I think that was part of the identity issues that he had.
Right. And you see in Jeremiah 29:13, hello, I'm going, oh no, he is going to totally take away what I gotta say. That was so good. So good, Gordon. Anyway, in Jeremiah 29:13 it says, "And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." So anyway, that is exactly what my story with him was.
Two of the things that I don't want to forget to mention. One is that when he first talked to you and you actually spoke, it wasn't texting or through the app, you spoke. What is the thing that, do you remember what he said to you?
Well, you said it.
Yeah, but I want you to, he said thank you for.
And yeah, okay, so he said, he goes, I just want you to know before we really get into getting to know each other, thank you for placing me in the home you placed me, because I want you to know that they love me and they raised me with love. And trust me, he did go wavered
Sure.
and all in what teenagers do and adults sometimes. Anyway, and he said I was difficult, but they loved me through it.
What did that mean to you? Because you were the one that had to come to that place of giving
Well,
him.
but to know that, it totally, gave me peace of mind to know that I made the right choice. But really, it was not me. It was the Lord. It was Jesus. So whatever you're going through in your life right now, in your walk, just trust the Lord. He will direct your path. He will part the sea for you. He is there for you because he loves you. Like I said at the beginning, he created you. We are his creation. And he loves us more than anything. I mean, he loved us so much that he sent his son to die for us, to carry our infirmities, to carry our hurts. So whatever it is, just lay it at the altar. Say, God, I cannot do this alone. I don't have the strength to do this. He will give you the strength because he loves you.
Yeah, I love that. Because then you will seek me and you will find me. And the idea of being found, you found your son. He found his mother. But even in a greater sense, when we talk about eternity, to be found by the one who made us, to be found by the one who loves us, and to acknowledge that we have found him, and we are in a place of grace, and we're in the place of family. It really does make life worth living. And it puts it all the pieces kind of come together, and we recognize who we are only because of whose we are. And we know that we belong to him, and in him we find our identity, we find our purpose, we find our hope, and we find our future. It's all found in him. It's all found in him. One of the questions that I think that others, I was trying to think, what would people be thinking? So what did the other siblings think of their newfound sibling? You talked about your 3 children that we raised, and it's interesting. But you tell the story, and then we'll.
Well, I know that my older son, he's first thing he said, I'm no longer the older. Anyway, but the family that have spoken with him, because he's called and there's been family around, they cannot believe how much he sounds like Kenneth, my older son. And I mean, the voice, and I can close my eyes and think that Kenneth is talking to me. And I believe my children have embraced him. They don't know him as well, and they are really, seeking to get to know him, and he's seeking to get to know them. But I know that when he found out that he had 2 more brothers and a sister, he was like, wow. And even yesterday, last time when we were talking, he's like, I cannot believe how big of a family I have. And that's because he knows how big my family is. We're Puerto Ricans, so we
They multiply.
We multiply like rabbits. Anyway.
Fruitful and multiply.
Anyway, we do have a large family. When we come together, I mean, some of you saw on Easter, the whole place was like half full with family, and that was not even everybody. So we do have a large family, and he has a large family, and so which I will be getting to know. But isn't it great when you know that you belong to a large family? Isn't it just so wonderful? And it goes beyond here. When, Christians, the church, it's a large family. When you walking down and you find somebody and you talk to them and they're total strangers, but once you know that they're Christians through the conversation, don't you feel like, wow, I know you? Don't you feel like I belong? Yeah. So that's exactly, that's what God wants the church to be like, is that we belong, that we can, mesh together. Last night we had the privilege of visiting another church, and they were having, you know, a gathering, and we went there, and one of the things that the speaker was saying was that, you know, he is from Utah.
Yes, powerful.
And we, you know, and he was here in Clearwater, and he goes, and I feel that there is a stream from Clearwater to Utah. And you see, and that's the church. That is the church. That no matter where we are from, where we are going, but when we come together, we belong.
He has a really unusual anointing that God has gifted him. It's a very prophetic evangelism. And he says hundreds of Mormons are coming to Jesus. In fact, he said his whole ministry team in his church in Utah is all former Mormons that have come to the Lord, that he's had the privilege of not only leading to the Lord, but discipling and just pouring into. It's a really powerful thing. And the reason why he felt drawn to the Clearwater area was because whereas Utah, in his area, is a capitalism of Mormonism, right here is the capitalism or capital of Scientology. And he really feels like God is going to raise up an army to where we can see Scientologists come to Jesus, and where they would lay down the cult and come into the knowledge of the truth. And it was just a powerful, powerful meeting.
And it's all in love.
And it's all in love, yeah. And really, that's what he's all about, just sharing the love of Jesus and the demonstration of miracle signs and wonders, but all leading to Jesus. You know, signs just lead us to the one that we're in the direction to find, and that is Jesus. And that's what these signs and wonders are all about. So, and I believe we're going to see that in Oldsmar. And I know that it's we're in a slow start mode, and the Lord really shared with me when we first started in this work that it would be a slow start, but it would be a go start. It would be something that God is in. He's in the process of doing whatever he's doing in all of us right now, but we will see growth. We're going to see souls saved. We're going to see people reached. I felt that Friday night as just the array of people that were there. I just felt like, God, you've called us. And you've called us not just to give away gifts and prizes, but you've called us to love on people. And you've called us to love people into the kingdom of God.
That is the key.
And, yeah, it is. It
love.
is. Yeah.
Love conquers everything. Love attracts.
Yeah.
And so when you are showing love to your neighbor in the grocery store, wherever you're at, you know, even in your family, because sometimes, you know, we may not have family that knows the Lord and like you know the Lord. And the only way to truly reach them is by loving them. It's not by pointing fingers and saying, you know, you're doing that wrong, or you're doing that wrong, or, you know, how we can be human. And but if we just be Jesus with skin.
Yeah.
Just be Jesus with skin.
Yeah.
Be, you know, love on people and be genuine, not, you know, like, yeah, I love you, and then hurt them in a different way. Let's be conscious in ourselves to love, to reach out and love people.
Why don't we stand together this morning? I hope that you've been blessed by this today. Can we just give it up for Laura again? For sharing.